The Granada Reckoning. From bankruptcy to helicopter, Audrey Sinclair saw her life shatter as the gavel hit the marble in the silent New York courtroom. Her ex-husband, Marcus Thorne, a man who had built an entire empire on her ideas, smiled smugly when the judge declared her destitute. Clinging to a cardboard box as she left the courthouse, his laughter echoed in the marble lobby, a sharp, cold sound of absolute victory. He thought he had destroyed her. He thought she was nothing. What Marcus ignored is that nothing is the most dangerous thing a person can become. He would see her again, but not in a courtroom. He would see her from the ground of Charleston's historic Battery Park as she descended from a private helicopter. Part 1. The Sentence and the Echo of Scorn. The fluorescent lights of the New York Supreme Court buzzed with a flat, indifferent sound that drilled into Audrey Sinclair's skull. Based on the terms of the prenuptial agreement signed on January 14, 2018, the judge, Justice Thompson, stated, "All assets, properties, and holdings acquired during the marriage are designated as the exclusive property of Mr. Marcus Thorne." Audrey had been his chief strategist. Her mind, her analytics, her astonishing ability to spot market trends 3 steps ahead of everyone else had been the rocket fuel. He was the face, the charismatic closer. She was the architect, drawing the blueprints in silence. The court denies Ms. Sinclair's petition for spousal support. All joint accounts are to be released to Mr. Thorne. The residence on Park Avenue must be vacated by Ms. Sinclair before 6 o'clock this evening. Marcus Thorne, immaculate in a custom suit, leaned back. He did not look at Audrey. He was checking his watch. In the gallery, his new associate, a 22-year-old influencer named Skylar, stifled a theatrical cough. Session adjourned. The gavel cracked, sharp and final. 10 years of her life, erased. Invisible to the scrum of reporters, Audrey walked out, her cheap shoes echoing hollowly on the marble. In her hands, a small archival box, the sum total of her new life. She reached the grand, resonant rotunda of the courthouse. She stopped, needing a single second to breathe. And then she heard it. "Marcus, honey, we're late for the Nobu reservation." Skylar's high, reedy voice. "Plenty of time, babe." Audrey saw his reflection in the heavy glass doors. Marcus was adjusting his tie. He caught her reflection. He saw her, standing there, shoulders slumped, holding her pathetic box. A low chuckle began in his chest. It grew into a full, rich laugh of pure, unadulterated scorn. A laugh that said, "You thought you were my partner. You were only an employee, and now you're fired." They swept past her, disappearing into the back of a waiting Maybach. The laughter hung in the air, echoing off the stone. It was the cruelest sound she had ever heard. The ruin. Audrey walked. She had $400 in a bank account. Marcus had forgotten to freeze, and a mountain of personal debt he had assigned to her during the divorce. She was, for all intents and purposes, ruined. She registered at the Star Hostel in a rough area of Queens, a place where rooms were paid for by the hour. She opened her laptop. The screen lit up with the factory welcome screen. Wiped. 10 years of her work, strategies, and notes. Gone. "You are nothing," the laughter echoed in her ears. "We'll see," she whispered to the peeling wall. The despair was a cold ocean, but the laughter, that laughter was a single, hard piece of flint. And in the absolute darkness of that motel room, Audrey Sinclair struck it. Part 2. The Blacklisted Architect. The next 6 weeks were a masterclass in humiliation. Audrey, the woman who once advised on billion-dollar acquisitions, was learning the subtle art of existing on $20 a day. She was quickly blacklisted. "Audrey, your resume is formidable," an old acquaintance from JP Morgan said over the phone. "But the thing is, there's just not a fit right now." The second call was more direct. Listen, Audrey. Off the record, you're radioactive. Carras and Thorne's legal team sent out, let's call it a dossier, to every major player in the city. Non-competes, NDAs, and a very strong inference of unstable behavior. Nobody will touch you. He had not only taken her past, he had stolen her future. The toxic dream. One night, scrolling the news, a glossy photo of Marcus and Skylar filled the screen. They were at the Helios Foundation Gala. Marcus was announcing his new flagship project, the one she had warned him against. Helios Green City. It was a multi-billion-dollar development in the South Carolina Low Country, promising a sustainable, carbon-neutral metropolis. The future of urban living, the headline bellowed. Audrey had told him the land was unstable. She had run the geological surveys herself. The bedrock was fractured, and the water table was contaminated from an old industrial plant. It was a money pit. Beautiful, shimmering, but fraudulent. Seeing him sell that dream, a cold academic fury replaced her despair. He wasn't just a monster. He was a stupid monster. The Hail Mary pill. That night, she made one last-ditch call. Sarah, it's Audrey. Audrey Sinclair. Sarah Jimenez had been her best friend in business school. I'm calling to ask for a favor. I need a job. Anything. Sarah, now working for a small tech consulting firm, returned the old familiar warmth, mixed with pity. Audrey, I can't. We're in the middle of a strategic review. We're being acquired. Audrey's heart sank. Who is it? She asked, stirring her instant noodles listlessly. A private equity group, Stryker Investments. Ever heard of them? Audrey's spoon stopped. Stryker Investments. The firm was less a company and more a myth, the boogeyman of the S&P 500. They were rumored to be run by a single, reclusive billionaire of shadows and dust, named Damian Sterling. They were known for two things: an obsession with disruptive technology and an absolute intolerance for fraud. They're acquiring you? Audrey's voice was suddenly sharp. Yeah, the due diligence is insane. They're led by a woman, Evelyn Leon. She's like a Terminator in a pencil skirt. Why? Audrey's mind was moving at its old forgotten speed. The pieces clicked. Stryker. Helios. Marcus. I don't need a job, Audrey said, standing up. I need a meeting. I need you to get me 10 minutes with Evelyn Leon. Tell her I have actionable intelligence on the Helios Green City project. Tell her Marcus Thorne is building a $9 billion house of cards on a toxic swamp, and I can prove it. Sarah sighed. Okay, I'll try. But Audrey, be careful. These people are not like Marcus. They're dangerous. So am I, Sarah, Audrey said, hanging up the phone. She had just forgotten. She looked at the photo of Marcus on her laptop screen. She wasn't crawling back. She was going to burn his kingdom and use the ashes as leverage. Part 3. The audition in the sky. 2 days later, an email arrived. The sender was Elion@Stryker.global. The body contained only a time and an address. 10 o'clock a.m. Tomorrow. The Sterling Tower. Floor 45. Do not be late. Audrey spent the entire night in the New York Public Library, fueled by stale coffee. She wasn't just going to present a problem. She was going to present an opportunity. She shredded the Helios Green City prospectus. She cross-referenced the contaminated land data she had foresightedly saved on a personal USB with the current databases of the EPA. She analyzed the bond structures Marcus was using for Phase 2 financing. She found the linchpin. Marcus wasn't just concealing cleanup costs. He was actively falsifying environmental reports to secure green bonds from European investors. It wasn't just a lie. It was wire fraud, securities fraud, and a dozen other felonies. But she went deeper. The fractured bedrock that Marcus saw as a flaw, she saw as a perfect location for something entirely different. Geothermal energy generation. Her presentation was 12 slides, no fluff, just facts, figures, and a conclusion so brutal it was beautiful. The test. At 9:45 a.m., Audrey entered the lobby of the Sterling Tower. A private elevator whisked her silently to the 45th floor. The doors opened directly into the reception area. Evelyn Leon, a woman with eyes so pale blue they looked like ice, waited. "Ms. Sinclair, I am Evelyn Leon. You have 10 minutes. Walk with me." "Mr. Thorne is not just underestimating cleanup costs," Audrey began, her voice steady. "He is actively committing securities fraud by falsifying EPA filings to secure green bonds." Evelyn's pace didn't change. "We are aware. We've known for 6 weeks. His bond issuers in Frankfurt are our partners. We're already positioned to short his stock into annihilation when the news breaks." Audrey's heart hammered. A test. This was the moment. "You're seeing the fraud," Audrey said, stopping. Evelyn stopped and turned, raising an eyebrow. "You're not seeing the opportunity. The fractured bedrock, the high temperature gradient," Audrey continued. "It's a structural nightmare for skyscrapers, but it is a perfect vessel for a closed-loop geothermal energy plant." She held up her laptop. "Helios Green City is a fraud, but the land is a multi-billion-dollar energy source. Stryker Investments has a renewable energy division. You let Marcus continue. You let him leverage himself to the hilt for his Phase 2 financing. You wait for him to break ground. The moment his excavators hit the contaminated aquifer and the EPA shuts him down, that is when you strike." "How?" Evelyn asked. Her voice a whisper. "You don't just short the stock. You buy the debt. You buy it all. When he defaults, and he will, you don't seize the company. You seize the asset, the land itself. You get it for pennies on the dollar. You at Thorne Global Acquisitions collapse, and Stryker Investments builds the largest geothermal energy plant in the Southeast, powering half of Charleston." Audrey closed the laptop. "You don't just make him a cautionary tale. You make him a footnote. You make billions, not millions, and it's all legal." Silence. A small, almost imperceptible smile touched the corner of Evelyn's mouth. "Everyone who comes here offers revenge. They are emotional. They are a mess. You came here offering a balance sheet. The problem is not the revenge," Evelyn noted. "It's the execution. Mr. Sterling hates Marcus Thorne. It's an old rivalry." "I didn't know," Audrey lied. "No," Evelyn said. Her smile widened. "I'm sure you didn't. Mr. Sterling is on the Odyssey, docked in Miami. He's expecting you." Now. Audrey was stunned. "We've been watching you since the day you left that courthouse, Ms. Sinclair. The meeting was the final test. You passed it. A car is waiting for you downstairs." "What about my presentation?" Audrey asked, holding up her laptop. "He's already seen it," Evelyn said, without looking back. She was streaming it from her laptop the second she opened it. Audrey walked into the elevator. She had entered as a pauper. She was leaving as something else entirely. Part 4. The confrontation at the port. The black Mercedes S-Class sped through the traffic with the serene indifference of a shark. The car stopped at Pier 59 in Miami. Docked at the end of the pier, dwarfing the other super yachts, was the Odyssey. A 400-foot giant of matte gray steel and smoked glass. Damian Sterling was not what she expected. He looked like a renegade college professor, with an untamed mop of gray hair and wire-rim glasses. But when he turned, his eyes were the most intelligent, unsettling things she had ever seen. "Ms. Sinclair, please sit." His voice was quiet with a slight, unplaceable European accent. "Evelyn is impressed," he said. "Evelyn is never impressed. She thinks you are a scalpel." "I agree." "Do you hate Marcus Thorne?" he asked. "I have a professional disagreement with his business model," Audrey said cautiously. Damian smiled. "Not with me. Let's be clear. I despise him. Marcus Thorne is a parasite. He is a symptom of a disease in our economy. A man who builds nothing, who creates nothing, who only brands. He is a hollow man, and hollow men must be broken. He walked to the window. 20 years ago, I had a data analytics firm. Marcus Thorne, then just a junior VP at a larger firm, handled our portfolio. He deliberately sunk our funding round. He lied to our investors. Then he and his firm absorbed our IP in bankruptcy. He built his first fortune on the bones of my work. Audrey shivered. The laughter. It was the same story. Your plan is excellent. It is intelligent. It is profitable. And it is lethal. But it is missing one thing. You. You are trying to give me the map. I don't want the map, Audrey. I want the cartographer. I'm not offering you a job. I anoint generals in. The geothermal project. It is yours. I am opening a new division. Stryker Urban Dynamics. You will be its president. You will oversee the acquisition of Thorne's debt. You will manage the seizure of the Helios asset. And you will build that power plant. You will not only be the architect of his ruin, you will be the architect of the future that replaces him. What do you get out of this? She whispered. 2 things, Damien said, holding up his fingers. 1. The Helios land is a brilliant strategic asset. Your geothermal plan will revolutionize the energy grid in the southeast. It will make us billions. 2. A dark smile touched his lips. I delight. I see the look on his face when he realizes the nothing he threw away was the only thing that could destroy him. That is my price, Audrey. You must be the one to do it. You must be the face of his reckoning. He won't see me coming, Audrey said, the old fire returning, burning hotter now. Refined. Oh, he won't see you at all. Not until the very end. Damien stood up, extending a hand. It begins today. You are no longer Audrey Sinclair, the victim. You are President Sinclair of Stryker Urban Dynamics. Go to work. Part 5. The Arrival and the Reckoning. The next 18 months were a blur of transformation. Audrey Sinclair ceased to exist. In her place, President Sinclair was forged. She became the primary creditor of Helios Green City. She owned Marcus Thorne. He just didn't know it. Operating in silence, Audrey bought his key debt pieces from banks in Frankfurt, Zurich, and London. She was not just the brilliant analyst. She became the general. The final trap. As predicted, the EPA shutdown hit. Marcus, desperate and over-leveraged, doubled down. He announced a massive black-tie Helios gala to be held at the project's gleaming sales center to woo his final round of investors. It was an arrogant, desperate move to save face. He's throwing a party, Audrey told Damien. He's inviting his friends to his own execution. Send the jet, she said. The night of the Helios gala was a tempest. A furious late-autumn storm lashed the South Carolina lowcountry. The nearby private airstrip was officially closed. Nothing was landing. Then, through the roar of the storm, came a new sound. A low, tearing whistle that grew into an earth-shaking roar. 2 blinding white landing lights pierced the darkness, descending at an impossibly steep angle. The aircraft was a sleek, silver Gulfstream G700, famous for its ability to handle extreme weather. It landed on the flooded strip with a smoothness that defied physics. It taxied right up to the plaza in front of the gala. The music died. The entire party was silent, staring at the apparition. A hydraulic stair ramp deployed. First emerged 2 figures, Evelyn Leon and the closer, the head of Stryker litigation. Then, a 3rd figure appeared in the doorway. She wore a cream-white, double-breasted power pantsuit. No dress, no jewelry, save a simple, elegant watch. Her hair was cut into that familiar sharp bob. Marcus Thorne squinted. His smug smile froze. The champagne glass in his hand began to tremble. "No," he whispered. "It can't be." Audrey Sinclair descended the steps. She did not rush. The wind whipped her suit, but she seemed as unperturbed as the steel of the jet behind her. She walked through the torrential rain, Evelyn Leon and the lawyer flanking her. The glass doors of the gala hissed open. Audrey walked in. She stopped at the foot of the stage, looking up at her ex-husband. Marcus's face had gone the color of ash. The arrogant smile, the confident posture, all gone. He was staring at a ghost. Audrey smiled. It was the smile of a predator who has finally cornered his prey. "Marcus." Her voice was clear and audible in the silent room. "A lovely party. What a shame you're celebrating it on my property." The checkmate. "Audrey, what is this? Some kind of joke?" he stammered, trying to laugh. "That would be me, or more accurately, Stryker Urban Dynamics, of which I am president," she said, gesturing to Evelyn. "What you'll find in the dossier Evelyn is handing out is a detailed debt restructuring breakdown. Mr. Thorne has been in breach of his primary loan covenants for 72 hours. Stryker Investments acquired all those positions." She stepped onto the stage, standing next to the massive, glittering architectural model of the city that would never be. "You sold a dream, Marcus, but you built it on a swamp, and now the note is due. As the exclusive creditor, Stryker Urban Dynamics has exercised its rights. We are not seizing your company. It's worthless. We are seizing the asset. This indoor, this building, all of it. The deed was transferred an hour ago. You, your investors, and your girlfriend are trespassing on private property." Skylar let out a small shriek and bolted for the door. But I am," Marcus stammered. "Oh, it gets worse, Marcus," Audrey said, stepping closer. The lawyer handed Marcus a thick stack of papers. "Those," Audrey said, "are not from me. Those are from the U.S. Attorney's Office. A federal indictment. Securities fraud. Wire fraud. The undercover UDEF agent you tried to bribe last week sends his regards. It seems fate has a funny way of working out." Marcus finally broke. The arrogant master of the universe collapsed. "Please, Audrey, please, you can't. I'll give you anything. Half. Just call it off." He was begging, on his knees. Audrey knelt to meet his level. She was close enough to smell the fear on him. "I don't want your money, Marcus. I have my own. I want you to remember. I want you to remember this moment every day for the rest of your life." She stood up, smoothing the front of her suit. "You were right, Marcus. I walked out of that courthouse with nothing. But the difference between you and me? I know how to build an empire from nothing. You only know how to lie." She turned away, leaving him kneeling on the stage. Federal agents, who had been waiting outside with her team, walked calmly toward the stage. Audrey Sinclair did not look back. She walked through the crowd of stunned billionaires and stepped out the glass doors. The storm was already beginning to abate. Evelyn Leon waited for her at the foot of the jet stairs. "A clean result, Madam President." "It's a start, Evelyn," Audrey replied, boarding the jet. "The hard part begins tomorrow. I have a power plant to build." She settled into the warm, silent cabin. As the jet's powerful engine spooled up, Audrey looked out the window. She saw the flashing blue and red lights of the agents' cars. She saw the pale, defeated silhouette of Marcus Thorne being escorted away. She did not laugh. She simply took a sip of water, opened her laptop, and went back to work. Meaningful conclusion. The power of nothing. The greatest comebacks are not just about getting rich. They are about reclaiming your power. Audrey didn't just get even. She got ahead. She proved that true success is not about who you know or what you are given, but what you can build. While Marcus Thorne's name became synonymous with fraud, Audrey Sinclair's name was etched onto the Stryker resonance plant, an engineering marvel that powers the entire region of Charleston to this day. She didn't just return in a billionaire's jet. She returned as the person in the pilot's seat. What do you think of Audrey's story? Was her revenge too much, or was it a perfect checkmate? Leave me your opinion in the comments below. If you loved this story of justice and resilience, be sure to like and share it with someone who needs to see it. And please subscribe to the channel for more real-life drama every week. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Part 6. The Construction of Resonance. The jet ride back to the Stryker Tower in New York was not a celebration. It was a transition. Audrey was no longer focused on Marcus. He was a finished transaction. Her mind was already consumed by the complex, multi-billion-dollar engineering feat ahead. The Stryker Resonance Plant. Damian Sterling was true to his word. Stryker Urban Dynamics was given unlimited resources and full autonomy. Audrey, now operating at the highest level of corporate power, flourished. The president's vision. Audrey's leadership style was a fusion of her technical brilliance and a surprising, newfound humanity. She insisted that the resonance plant not only be the most advanced geothermal facility in the world, but also an architectural and environmental beacon. The land as a partner. Instead of bulldozing the site, she implemented her rewilding concepts, using the fractured bedrock to maximize geothermal output while restoring the contaminated wetlands around the site. A new culture. Her team wasn't filled with the ruthless egoists she had once known. She hired brilliant ethical engineers, urban planners, and environmental scientists, many of whom had been sidelined or overlooked by companies like Thorn Global. She treated them not as employees, but as co-architects of the future. Evelyn Leon, her COO, who initially saw Audrey as a tool for a hostile takeover, grew to genuinely respect her. You see the numbers, but you see the people they affect too, Evelyn once noted over a late-night strategy session. Marcus only saw zeros. That's why he's in prison, and you're building a city. The quiet kingmaker, Audrey and Damian Sterling maintained a relationship built on deep professional respect and a subtle, unspoken emotional connection. Damian was the strategic anchor, always anticipating the next 5 moves on the global chessboard. He never interfered with her project, but guided her with philosophical insights. The power you wield now, Audrey, Damian once told her, is not in the spending, but in the restraint. Never seek applause, only seek efficacy. Their bond was the most authentic relationship she had ever known, a partnership of equals, focused on creation rather than consumption. Part 7. The Echoes of the Past. While Audrey was busy designing a sustainable future, Marcus Thorne's world was the antithesis of sustainability. His trial was swift, heavily covered, and humiliating. He was convicted on multiple counts of fraud and conspiracy. He was sentenced to a substantial prison term in a federal facility. The loneliest sound. Marcus, the man who thrived on attention and luxury, now existed in a harsh, monotonous environment. His lawyers abandoned him. Skylar deleted her entire Instagram history with him and quickly found a new, less federally scrutinized benefactor. In his cell, the only sound Marcus truly feared was the silence that forced him to confront the simple, devastating truth. He had destroyed his own life, not Audrey's. The geothermal power plant, visible on clear days as a clean, angular structure replacing the toxic swamp, became his daily, visible torment. It was a constant, powerful monument to the woman he had dismissed as nothing, a monument to her superior vision, her intelligence, and his catastrophic arrogance. He finally understood the true weight of her last words. "I know how to build an empire from nothing. You only know how to lie." Conclusion. The new balance. After 2 years of intense construction, the Stryker Resonance Plant went fully operational, providing clean, renewable energy to hundreds of thousands of homes. It was celebrated as a global model for environmental cleanup and innovation. Audrey, now in her early 40s, stood on the newly landscaped grounds, watching the massive turbines turn, a symbol of harnessed, clean power. She had built her empire, fulfilled her purpose, and secured a legacy that would last for generations. She had everything she had lost, and infinitely more. Yet she had also found something unexpected: peace. Her revenge had not burned her, as Damien had warned it might. It had simply been the hard, cold catalyst she needed to clear the path for her own brilliant destiny. Her greatest victory was not Marcus's fall, but the fact that she no longer needed to think of him at all. Her life was too vast, too consequential, to be reduced to a reaction against her past. She had achieved the true goal of power, the freedom to focus entirely on creation. Like and share this amazing conclusion. If you believe that building a better future is the best form of revenge, do you think Audrey and Damien Sterling would ever explore a romantic relationship, given their unique, powerful partnership? Share your predictions in the comments. Subscribe for more stories of justice, resilience, and success. Part 8. The Architect's New World. 2 years after the Stryker resonance plant began humming with clean energy, Audrey Sinclair was no longer just the president of Stryker Urban Dynamics. She was a global figure in sustainable technology. She spent her time collaborating with heads of state and pioneering new projects in Asia and Europe. She had built her purpose, but one element of her life remained in a unique, complex equilibrium: her relationship with Damien Sterling. Their partnership was flawless, a symbiosis of vision, intellect, and trust. He was the anchor of strategy. She was the engine of execution. Yet it was purely professional, guarded by both their past wounds and their mutual respect for boundaries. One evening, after closing a complex deal that secured their next major project in Dubai, Audrey and Damien were having dinner in a private study on the Odyssey. "You handled the negotiations perfectly, Audrey," Damien said, leaning back. "You anticipated their final offer before they did. Marcus taught you well, indirectly." "Marcus taught me about human weakness," Audrey corrected softly. "You taught me about strategic strength." Damien looked at her, his intense eyes softened by the candlelight. "I think you had the strength all along. I just handed you the steel." He reached across the table, not for her hand, but for a simple, uncut piece of amber she used as a paperweight. "I have no more worlds to conquer with vengeance, Audrey. Marcus is where he belongs. The company is secure. The next stage of Stryker requires a new kind of dedication." "Are you retiring?" she asked, surprised. "No," he smiled faintly, "but I'm stepping back from the day-to-day. I need a change of focus. And as for you," he paused, setting the amber down, "I never hired you for your ideas, though they were brilliant. I hired you because I fell in love with your integrity. I saw the raw, uncompromising core of the woman Marcus tried to break, and I wanted to be the one to stand beside that strength." Audrey's breath hitched. She had seen him as a mentor, a strategic partner, but she felt the deep, quiet pull of him, the substance he represented. "I am offering you more than partnership, Audrey," Damien continued, his voice low and serious. "I am offering you balance, a life where you do not have to choose between your power and your heart. I want to build a life with you, where the greatest project is our own peace. I will be your shield, your sounding board, and your devoted partner. Will you accept the cartographer's crown? Not just the presidency of Stryker, but the co-authorship of our future." Audrey met his gaze. She didn't hesitate. She had spent years rebuilding her professional world. Now, it was time to build her private one. "Yes, Damien," she said, a wave of profound certainty washing over her. "Let's build that future." The final stone of peace. 3 months later, News of Audrey Sinclair's engagement to the reclusive billionaire Damian Sterling sent gentle ripples through the global financial community. It was a union celebrated for its power and its quiet authenticity, a true partnership of equals. Meanwhile, back in his maximum security facility, Marcus Thorne received a letter. It wasn't from a lawyer or a business associate. It was a simple, sealed envelope from his financial trustee. Inside was a single photo, the official announcement of the engagement. Marcus looked at the serene, powerful beauty of Audrey, standing beside the man who had meticulously engineered his downfall. He saw the genuine peace in her eyes, the sheer distance between her world and his. He crumpled the photo. He had once looked at a defeated Audrey in a courthouse lobby and laughed a laugh of pure scorn. Now, confined to his narrow cell, the truth struck him with finality. The greatest loss of his life wasn't his company, his wealth, or his freedom. It was the possibility of a love built on integrity. He would spend the rest of his life as the footnote he dreaded, a cautionary tale of a man who traded true partnership for vanity, and consequently lost everything. Audrey, however, was already looking forward. She had built her empire from nothing, secured her legacy, and found her truest match. She had proven that the most powerful revenge is not just surviving the collapse, but thriving so beautifully that your past becomes utterly irrelevant to your future. Like and share this amazing series. If you believe that a woman's greatest power is her integrity and vision, what name do you think Audrey and Damian should name their future home estate, symbolizing their quiet power? Share your ideas in the comments. Subscribe now for the next epic tale of power, justice, and human resilience. Epilogue. 10 years later. The residue and the resonance. 10 years have passed since the Met Gala night and the founding of Stryker Urban Dynamics. The world has changed, but the foundations built by Audrey Sinclair and Damian Sterling remain unshakable. The legacy of resonance. Audrey, now in her mid-50s, stood on the observation deck of the Stryker Resonance Plant in South Carolina. The facility was no longer just a power plant. It was a campus. Surrounding the geothermal core was the Sinclair Institute for Sustainable Architecture, a think tank and educational center she founded, dedicated to mentoring the next generation of ethical, visionary builders. She was celebrated globally, a TED speaker, a subject of university case studies, and a quiet, powerful force redefining urban energy. Her work, her integrity, and her quiet refusal to court the spotlight defined her legacy. Her marriage to Damian was the anchor. They had built a life of profound substance, moving with quiet purpose between their homes in Big Sur, Dubai, and the Odyssey. Their bond was one of mutual strategic respect and an effortless, deep affection. A love built on the shared pursuit of meaningful creation. The final contrast. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, Marcus Thorne was serving the final years of his substantial sentence. He was eligible for parole, but the years of humiliation and confinement had eroded the charismatic veneer that was once his only asset. He was a man without an audience, without a brand, and utterly without hope. He sometimes heard the news of Audrey, not on a screen, but whispered by a guard who had read an article about the brilliant woman who engineered the largest clean energy takeover in U.S. history. The guard saw her as a hero of business. Marcus only saw his executioner. One day, his parole officer presented him with a form for potential job placements. The officer mentioned a new, massive industrial park being built in the region, a state-of-the-art facility looking for basic manual labor. "It's honest work, Mr. Thorne. Part of the Stryker Urban Dynamics development," the officer explained. Marcus stared at the paperwork, the clean, minimalist logo of the company, founded and led by Audrey. The realization was the final, crushing blow of irony. His only path to earning an honest living after his release was through the charity of the woman whose life he had tried to ruin. He was reduced to being a footnote in the physical infrastructure of her empire. He didn't take the job. He couldn't. The end of the story. Audrey stood on the deck, feeling the warmth of the sun and the steady, quiet power of the turbines. She was surrounded by students and engineers, all working to solve the world's largest problems. Her eyes held the quiet confidence of a woman who knows her worth is not negotiable. The scornful laughter that once echoed in a courthouse lobby had been completely overwritten by the steady, powerful resonance of the world she built. The story was over. The victim was gone. The scorn was silenced. All that remained was the quiet, indelible power of the cartographer's crown.